So we're back for our 5th episode of Sitecore Unplugged. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Jason St. Cyr.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a very special guest, someone I've been able to connect with offline at various subcons. He's a very big supporter of the Sitecore community, Jake Hookom, VP of Platform and Commerce at Sitecore.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, Jake, could you please introduce yourself to the Sitecore community for those that haven't already had the pleasure of meeting you, and share a little bit about your tech journey?
So I'm Jake Hookom, VP of Commerce and Platform at Sitecore. You'll know right away why I'm so passionate about community, but I started my journey in tech as a developer right out of college, did a ton with open source, dare I say with Java. I was one of the first founding members of their equivalent to the MVP program, so the Java Champions organization. Did a ton with Apache, open source. But my tech career professionally, I worked in a Fortune 10 healthcare company and did a ton in terms of leading large organizations, in terms of commerce, customer technology, et cetera. It was fantastic. But I, like many people, you reach a certain age where you kind of look around and you're like, I've learned a lot. I've done a lot. What's my next adventure? And that's where I had the opportunity to join the founders at 451 and was part of almost a Cinderella experience with that company as we elevated ourselves to get acquired by Sitecore. So it's been an awesome journey, and really started my career on the development side and development management, and moved into product, and I continue to learn a ton.
Awesome. So you've had a very exciting career so far. So can you share a little bit about the experience and insights on transitioning from engineering to product management? Because that's a pretty big difference between the two. So tell us a little bit about that.
It is. And I think a lot of times when people look at the outside in on this, it's you kind of look at it as maybe one and the same thing. And I think it's that common intent of you're super passionate about what you're building. Like there's no denying it. And I think, my experience on the engineering side, it's like you're building a beautiful car. Like you want it to be perfect. You want it to like just operate perfectly. And you're motivated by essentially perfecting your craft, like making that thing as best as possible. In my career though, like I realized that, and it took some bonks over the head, to be candid, in terms of like it can create some biases in terms of you're looking at the customers you have, how they're interacting with your product, and try to make it as perfect as possible. And what I grew to recognize is that like really good product management is looking at the outside, like the things you're missing, like the customers you don't have. Like I'll give you an example. In my time working in the commerce space at the large healthcare company, we had like the coolest B2B commerce like platform. It can do everything like Amazon.com could do. It had personalized catalogs. Like we had an NPS score of 70% plus. And one day our chief marketing officer showed up and said, I want to pivot, and I want to do a public catalog, and I want to do self-registration. And we're like, oh my God, like none of our customers are asking for this. Like nobody, like, what are you doing? Like, why are we wasting time? But we did it. And it was a struggle to kind of recognize that. But in hindsight, it completely transformed the trajectory of the business. And I think that going through those experiences and understanding that both the craftsmanship and the focus on the customers you have and balancing that out from a product strategy perspective with growth and approaching net new customers and those opportunities, that balance is needed. And I think it's been super exciting, like joining the Sitecore team and the product management group there is in the transformation we're in and where we're going with our products. It's like a PhD, MBA, and product management. It's been awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on, right? Like it's I've been here now a few years at Sitecore, and I don't think that the last 2 years here at Sitecore have been the most change I have seen in the Sitecore community. Well, I mean, it's been over a decade that I've been doing this now, and it's incredible what's been going on now. And it's thanks to all these different teams that came together and are building all this new stuff. You mentioned when you were talking about product management, how we have to get outside of kind of like our existing base and thinking about what's out there. And you've been out there, you're listening to what's going on. What is it that people are talking about? What do you think is the top of mind and you're getting excited by right now?
I think the thing I'm most excited about, in our space and some of the things we're doing is, and I don't want to sound cliche on this, but it's this idea that content as data. And like, that's a history of Sitecore. But like, when you combine that, and the way I look at this from a content as data is so much of the way that the industry is operated, and in terms of content publishing and website development, is I am going to build a bunch of pages and then I'm going to measure engagement or clicks on them to keep that pipeline feeding of what new content am I going to build? How am I going to engage with customers? Well, when you start to look at what's going on with AI in the industry and what we're doing at Sitecore, even in terms of like taking that content you have or the content you've built elsewhere in your ecosystem, and you start to data mining, like use it as a data source. Like, what's the sentiment? What are the themes of the content you published? It starts to flip this paradigm from just page click counting for engagement into what themes are customers looking for? Like, what aspects of that content is resonating with those customers, and you start to derive like insights in a new way. So like the technology we're building at Sitecore and we have out today is, and this idea that content is data, we can take that content and act upon it. We can personalize. That's what Sitecore does. But I think the frontier in this DXP space is now you start to take that and you turn that internally for like content managers, marketers. You take those insights and start to change the way that you think about content publishing and content creation.
That's actually really interesting. Just as you were talking about that, it was like, I'm going back into something I was talking about earlier online. I was writing about SEO keywords and keyword stuffing.
Yes.
And it feels like we're getting away from what are the important keywords, and it's like, what are the important feelings, right, in the content, right? And like, what is that the core of it? That's really, really interesting space to be able to go into. One of the other things that we've been talking about is this whole teamwork that's required. The digital experience as a team sport is something that we've been kind of walking around. And I was intrigued to find out, since you've been able to be in the space a while, you've talked to a lot of enterprises. What is it like in those rooms? Who is it that is actually making those decisions in different industries? Like when we talk about the team sport, who's on that team right now?
Yeah, I mean, you look at enterprise and enterprise customers, I could joke and say it's procurement and legal. But the reality is there's always two parts of this. I mean, we talk about the product and engineering dynamics. There's always technology and business stakeholders in there. And I think increasingly with the way the industry and technology is going, it's going to be more and more leaning towards business users looking at solutions and outcomes versus technology and tooling decisions. Now, the point is the industry and technology is largely migrated and done a great job of migrating to cloud native SaaS, and those frontiers of lessening the burden of some of your decision making on what products and what capabilities you bring into your business. But what's left, and where are those differentiators? And that's really, this frontier of how's that technology enabling business users to be self-sufficient, to act. And I think this is a unique space for Sitecore in the way that our partners and development community work with Sitecore. Because like any Sitecore project, it's not just I'm using Sitecore to build a website or deliver a website. Part of that project and the part of the way that Sitecore's always come together is that those technologists aren't just building the outcome, they're building the tools, may it be components, page templates, personalization, et cetera, to enable those business users. And I think that's a unique value proposition when you look at composable commerce and our story we tell in that room, that's a biggest differentiator for us going forward.
Right. It's the building the Lego bricks, right? So that someone can have a really cool
you're not just coming
Falcon.
in and delivering a solution. You're actually part of that delivery solution is creating that flywheel for the company.
Yeah, very nice. Now, I know that this is the first time we've had you on our podcast here, and that means you get to join in a very special ritual that we like to do, and that is our rapid fire questions.
That's right.
We haven't lost anyone yet, Jake, so don't be too scared of it.
Always a first. Yeah.
But here comes Nicole with the rapid fire.
Okay, so Jake, it's time for rapid fire round of questions. And David Flanagan got through it, so did Peter Brinkman. Okay, so you can get through it too. So this segment is crafted to put your quick thinking to the test and get listeners to just to get to know you a little bit better. It's only 4 questions. I know you haven't seen the questions yet, but I'm going to ask you to answer each one in just a few sentences, okay?
Okay.
All right, are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so first question here. What is the most important lesson you've learned in your career?
To radiate intent, move forward. It's not necessarily asking for forgiveness, but like move forward, let people know where you're going, what you're going to do, be a leader.
Awesome. I like that. What are your top tips for coaching and nurturing team talent?
There's an aspect of delegation, but I think I like to use the term lending privilege. This idea that, you have an opportunity as a leader to be at the table. It's really about who else you're going to bring to the table, like giving them the opportunity, bring diverse perspectives in. It not only helps you as a leader, but it also helps you're building team and building shared ownership. That's super key.
Yeah, for sure. And what emerging technology are you most excited about and why?
I am a fanboy of Next.js. If people understand my open source background, I think Next.js technology and like Next.js 13, mixing dynamic and static content generation and delivery at the edge. Saturday night, I might be hacking away at pet projects on Next.js. I'm that excited about it. Obviously, the other side is AI. What we're continuing to do within Sitecore and what I see on the industry is amazing. I think it'll continue to transform everything we do.
All right, last one here. So this is a tricky one, actually. So I'm going to put you on the hot spot here. But if you had to describe the future of Sitecore in 3 words, what would they be?
Probably future-proof innovation.
Okay, I like that. So Jake, shifting gears to the community. So like I said, you've been an active supporter of the community. You've engaged with the community both online and offline, particularly at various subcons. I see you at most subcons, actually. And reflecting on your experiences, have you encountered a community quite like this one in this industry? And what would you say sets this community apart from others? I mean, we already know it's the best community, but go into a bit more detail.
It is. I mean, I remember post-COVID Budapest and just being unbelievably energized. I mean, you have to understand, a lot of us had come together at this company, and it was the first time we got to meet each other in person, and at the same time just drink in the community, and that I'm sure like you guys are already familiar with. But I think the biggest difference is from what I've seen, I've been part of in the past to what's it truly feels like it's community run, and the community is taking ownership of feeding that community and keeping it growing. I think back to Minneapolis, even more recently here, and the team there, it's community run is the biggest differentiator that I see. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, you know what? That was my first SubCon Budapest. That was the first time I ever went to a SubCon. I had only been with the company for a few months. It was the first time I ever met Tomasz. So I think that was your first SubCon. That was my first SubCon as well. Yeah. And I came back super energized. I said this in the last episode as well, but the community is just so amazing, and the passion. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. You come back
great singers.
Way more energy. And they're great singers. Yeah, you're right. They're amazing. Like they're so talented. Not only are they super intelligent, they have tons of knowledge, but they're amazing at singing. I mean, they really put everyone to shame. Yeah.
They do. They put it out there.
All right. Yes. So Jake, finally here, what is your message to the Sitecore community?
I think it goes back to, something that Jason said earlier. Sitecore is changing dramatically. And again, I love sitting in like the SubCon sessions listening to the community, the questions they ask. I think, Sitecore had this luxury of being very prescriptive. And in terms of like inward looking, we had a prescribed solution on how you do forms, like how you do develop web pages, how you do components, and how you do all these things. Sitecore now is outward, looking outward. Like, how does Sitecore fit in this composable ecosystem? And I think GPT is a great example of this. Like, the community now, like, looking outward and filling in all those opportunities for innovation, bringing other technology in, bringing other stacks in. It's a different, you can tell by the questions they ask from like a year ago or 2 years ago to now. It's a different community, and they're embracing it. They're evolving. So my message would be is keep looking outward on how you bring Sitecore into these other experiences, into these other MarTech stacks. We see partners doing it, we see community doing it. Keep doing it. Like, that innovation is amazing.
Well, Jake, thank you for taking the time to join this episode of Sitecore Unplugged. It was great hearing about your journey, your experience with Sitecore, and all the insights that you have. I'm sure we're going to ask you to come back for another episode because we know that there's way more questions that we could ask you. And I hope to see you at an upcoming SugCon.
Same. Bye.